Welcome friends of WildRift and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we're going to take a look at the jungle role and making you understand how it actually functions and how you can play around it. But before we hop into it, let's talk about our question of the day. What do you think about dragons in WildRift? I know it's a tricky question and I know a lot of people will be very upset about hearing the answer to that question from many people, but let me know in the comments below. So let's talk about jungling from the jungle's perspective. What do you want from a jungler? Before we even hop into that topic, let's talk about what a jungler needs from you. Having a winning lane. Thinking about a lane where you are actually winning in terms of the matchup allows your jungle to plan around you. If your jungle has the knowledge about your laning matchup and can properly play around it, you'll find it substantially easier to maneuver around the map because you can play together in synchronized events. However, when you're constantly stuck at your own tower, it's very difficult for your jungler to do anything about this. The only thing he can do there is to protect you from being dove, and depending on how you traded beforehand, even that is, well, kinda difficult for him. On the flip side, even if you're able to push the lane constantly, it's not always the best choice you can do. Sometimes it's not a good choice to push just because you can, because you'll open yourself up to the enemy jungle's ganks, where your jungle is busy farming in his jungle. Your jungle's job isn't to just constantly spam ganks. That is very wrong, it should never be done. However, in WildRift, many people will fall victim to that because they don't pay attention and have no idea about the jungle role. So if you sit there and push your lane and just say I have priority, what is your jungle supposed to do with that? Not all junglers care about this at a specific time. It's more important to understand where your jungle is pathing to, so you can make use of your priority to back him up for a proactive play, because you pushing your wave allows him to, for example, invade, but it's not always the good choice, because it's not always a good situation for your jungler to invade, because he's losing too much time, has camps available, etc, etc, etc. But what about freezing your own wave? What about holding the wave on your side close to your tower and allowing your jungle to attack the enemy from behind or from an angle that's very difficult to escape from, and just collecting a free kill? What about that one? Afterwards, you can then, with the help of your jungle, push out the wave and reset it and do the same thing again. It's super easy. The next thing we have to really understand when it comes to the jungle role, especially when you're facing a Lee Sin, because this monster is the most annoying monster in the jungle. What about not forcing all-ins or fights if you don't have complete information? With Lee Sin being the menace he is, he can easily access your lane by just dashing into it, and he can do so from the most various angles. Therefore, going into a fight situation or an all-in is most of the time a very detrimental thing towards your own health in the game. How many times have you tried to all-in an enemy, for example on level 2 against a Lee Sin, and then got ganked by Lee Sin and died? And how many times did you blame your jungle for it? Like he's not ganking you? Hey, it's only the second camp and you already forced an all-in, and it's a Lee Sin who is literally infamous for early ganks, and you still go for the same play over and over again and get punished every single time. It's not your jungle's fault, it's your fault. Deal with it. However, what you can do in those scenarios, if you have information on your jungle or vision established, you can lean towards the side you have vision on or where your jungle is at. Therefore, you have an easier time running towards him just in case that you need some help. Another thing that you have to understand, similar to the one I mentioned before with the Lee Sin, different champions have different ideas of how they want to play. Some champions want early aggression and some others want to scale up and hit a breakpoint, and you need to understand what that means. For example, a Kha'Zix is not as strong in a level 3 or level 4 2v2 as, for example, a Xin Zhao. However, a Kha'Zix on level 5, with the first abilities Evolve and the Stealth, will deal a substantial amount of damage even in a 2v2 if the people are isolated, but it always depends on conditions and you have to understand those conditions. While you're learning about those conditions, you're more or less understanding to be self-sufficient. Not depending on your jungle, but rather offering him a nice opportunity is something every jungle loves to see. Obviously with the inflation and WildRift, etc, it's a little bit difficult. However, if you play with friends or pre-mates, you'll certainly understand how powerful teamwork can be in that regard, especially with waves. But if you play solo queue, you need to give your jungle options to play around you and just don't expose yourself to too much risk. If you want to do something, you can advise him to come with a ping. You want him to cover for you can type it out or assist him with a ping. Like, all those little things can make the difference. And here's the harsh truth though. In 10 instances, you might only get help once, but you have been the factor that is 100% the reason why it happened. And therefore it's very frustrating to do, but it still pays off, and if it pays off, it's a game-winning play. So even if it's frustrating, please try to share as much information as possible and coordinate your teammates, and try to be positive, even though you want to be very negative. And I know, I feel you. I want to be negative myself because it's very much unbearable in most games, because inflation is just too goddamn terrible, but it's still the only thing you can do. The next one goes out to all of the people who just constantly spam gangs and sometimes win and sometimes lose. You need to understand and respect your own timers and your teammates' timers to really not mess up your game. Jungle can impact the entire map, and that's completely fine because it's the designated role of that specific role. However, trying to impact the map continuously by neglecting your camps is something that puts you behind and makes you super and 100% dependent on your teammates. So when you're the jungle or when you're playing with the jungle, pay attention to his camps and your own camps. You don't want to be just running around spamming gangs and neglecting your camps because you're losing golden experience for something that is not even a guaranteed win. So next time you want something from your jungle, look at his camps and be like, is it really reasonable for that to happen right now? Or is it just me overforcing something because I feel like I have to? And on the flip side, as a jungler, look at your camps and how much gold there is standing literally for free, and how much gold you would lose if you were to die by going for a play that is not even a high value play. Think about it next time. Now let's summarize. For one, if you are a winning lane, the jungler can play around you because you are dictating how the lane is played. But you need to be self-sufficient in doing so. If you want more help, it's more easy for your jungle to play around a lane that's frozen rather than a lane you can't dive. Another thing is, don't just dive or push. It has to have a reason. Waves are a tool you can utilize them well. Don't force your jungle to just run around the map continuously, making up for your mistakes. Your jungle is not meant to win your lane, you're supposed to win your lane on your own by making good draft decisions and good gameplay decisions. Don't blame your jungle if you lose 1v1, and most certainly don't blame your jungle if you die to a level 2 gank. Nope, that is not how it goes. Give your jungle choices that he can utilize and not just force him to do things, while his entire jungle is available. And last but not least, something that we need to talk about, and it's very important, it's about dragons. Dragons are useless in solo queue, dragons are useless in general. The first dragon doesn't matter, the second dragon doesn't matter, none of your third dragon really matters, and getting all of those free combined is very unlikely, so please go for Herald, end the game fast and just win the game, because more stats will not help your entire team when you place 15,832 Ashe one trick on top lane in Grandmaster now runs it down because she has no clue where to go or what to do. Stats don't matter on your entire team if they're a bunch of griefers anyway. Focus on getting gold yourself and play around that gold. All in all, go away from dragons, go for heralds, tell your jungle to go for heralds, win more games. Thank you and see you soon for more RiftGuides content.